Been waiting to do this. I wanted to talk throughout the show to someone who grew up with the new Pope, Pope Leo, in Chicago, and now we have John Doughney. So John is St. Mary of Assumption Grammar School class of '69, I believe. Is that right? So
that's correct.
All right, and I think was the new Pope same class or the year before? Same
graduating class.
Same graduating class. So obviously you would have known each other. Tell us about him.
Well, it's been a long time since I've had any contact with now Pope Leo, but as a student at St. Mary's, when you think of the characteristics of a 12 or 13-year-old boy on the south side of Chicago, you typically don't think about compassion, deep faith, high intellect, care and kindness, and those are the characteristics that Pope Leo, Robert Prevost, as I knew him, displayed even as a young man.
So you weren't surprised then when, I mean, he went to Villanova, I know, after high school. That's, I think that picture is his Villanova picture we showed earlier when he was a freshman there. He graduated in '77. So when he joined the Augustinians and became a priest, you weren't surprised?
No, not at all. I don't think any of us from St. Mary's were surprised.
What was the traits? Were there just a number of people who did that back then, coming out of a place like St. Mary's, or was it something particular about him?
Well, I think all of us, all the young men going through Catholic school, and I went through Catholic high school as well, had thoughts about the priesthood. I think that's just natural. A very small minority of us acted on that. Robert was one who obviously did, but it was no surprise to us because you could see even as a young man that he had the characteristics that you would want in just in your pastor priest that you would want in a bishop or a cardinal, and certainly the kind of characteristics you would want in a pope.
What was the neighborhood like to grow up in? We've talked a lot about his work in Peru and this, but you know, what was south side of Chicago and the neighborhood you guys grew up in? What was it like back then?
Well, I grew up in Riverdale. He grew up in Dalton, and those kind of border the south border of Chicago. To me, it was an ideal childhood. It was pretty simple. We didn't have a whole lot, but we didn't want for anything. And the church was kind of the center of our community.
It was. That's how it was back then, right? Everything was very, people would speak about what parish you're in, right? I mean, that's how New York was. They would say, hey, you're from such and such a parish, as opposed to sometimes to the neighborhood.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we were St. Mary's, and he was a big part of that, and his family was a big part of that.
You know, I joke with people sometimes, he was on our show last night, that it's really weird for me growing up watching Geraldo on TV. I said, now Geraldo's a friend of mine. It's got to be, and that's weird. Now, so, you know, I said, somebody says, who's this? I said, it's kind of odd that, you know, I used to watch Geraldo, now he's my friend. So for you, you knew the Pope. I mean, it's got to be, it seemed weird. I mean, I know you, how does it seem to you today to look on TV and see the guy you went to school with?
Well, it was, I can't say it was a shock, because the Robert that I knew, like I said, he already possessed so much of what you would want in the leader of the Catholic Church. And I'm sure over time that has just become deepened within his character. It was surprising to me just from the standpoint of being American, as young. I don't feel young, but we're the same age, but young for a pope. And so it seemed to be a long shot, but when it happened, of course, my phone started blowing up, and it's been an entire day of answering questions about our childhood.
That's, well, I'm glad you answered some of ours. And hey, but listen, you should get a bunch of you guys from St. Mary's together and just tell him he's got to give you an audience, right?
Well, St. Mary's, the class of '69 gets together every single year, and I'm sure that'll be the talk of next year's reunion.
That makes sense. Thank you, John. Good perspective.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.